Good morning, channel friends. Today we're getting to work on this console that can turn into a small table when needed. Oh yes, exactly. You know, if you need to host someone and need more space for snacks or want to use it as a stand at Christmas when you put the presents. It's like any other console that can become larger when needed.
You can find these little cabinets for really cheap at many markets, and you might ask me, where?
It depends on where you look. Of course, if you go to the most famous places, like, I don't know, the famous squares, like Franco, who always goes to the most expensive places, right, Franco? You need to know how to look, but one thing's for sure, pieces like this, which have at least 150 years of history, absolutely must be saved, right?
Yes. How will we do it?
Particular. Let's start. This top is beautiful. We like it because it has a central grain of a very thick wood. If you look at its one single grain, meaning this trunk has been refined, it has been fixed and they've taken a good chunk off the sides. But look, this is a single plank. And it continues on the sides. So actually this is a small table made from a very large branch, a very large piece of tree. We like this beautiful central grain. But we also like its age, its marks. So now I'm going to use the sander, a 120 grit, but I'll be careful to remove the marks, but not too much. I want to remove the oxidation of time, a bit of the darkening that stops me from seeing the wood grain. I use my sander, which is a random orbital sander. It has a fantastic paper because it's adhesive, but also transparent. What does it mean? It absorbs 100% of all the dust. So I can use it here too, where I have the computer and other things. So I stick it on, very easy, and connect it to a vacuum cleaner that sucks everything up. Let's get started. When you have such a beautiful table with such lovely wood that even Franco wouldn't want to change, we absolutely can't do anything that would overshadow its beautiful grains. You can really see the central wood grain, large, very harmonious. You can see this beautiful part where the grain is wide. So this is a single piece of trunk, and it's not even that small. So we have decided to do a very delicate treatment, which will enhance the table without making it heavy, by applying this transfer on the sides, so on the wings. This way, when we place these parts down, like this, it will still be visible because the decoration will stay here. But the main grain which is on the wood, on the table, on the central part, will always remain visible. So, Emma, let's cut it, and today we'll use our magic liquid. I take 2 teaspoons, a brush to apply the liquid well, and I'll just show you how it's done. Let's start with a piece of decoration. We place it on the side. We pin it on one side, so it doesn't move. Let's just see where the design is. Over here. We'll do it here. You take a brush. You dip it in the liquid. You lift it up. Be careful. If you don't lift it carefully, you'll make a mess. You'll create a puddle. So always lift the sheet when you apply the liquid. I'll just add a little bit more. In the meantime, remember this. You lift the sheet when you apply the liquid, and before lowering it, you need to check that the liquid doesn't form a puddle. So if you see there's too much, blow on it for a moment, then lower it and gently scrape it. Gently, if you can.
First on one side and then on the other, like this.
Just like Emma does, circular movements are perfect. The important thing is not to miss even a millimeter, because otherwise, in that spot, the ink won't transfer.
Now let's see if the magic has happened. Remember that our wood is quite dark, and the transfer will be even more visible once it's protected. There we go. The design needs to be very delicate and should only embellish the wood. It should be like embroidery.
Otherwise, it would cover the beautiful grain. It almost looks painted, like it's been done by hand with a pencil, really beautiful with a pencil. Now I'll carry on with all this transfer. Remember, you need a laser photocopy.
Make sure to do it on the other side as well. What you see here is the new matte protective finish.
Why do I say new? Because you made me so angry in the past few months that I completely changed the product we used to sell. Before, we used to sell a product that was matte and soft touch, which means soft touch, delicate, right? Because it created a velvet-like effect, it flopped the surface.
The problem is that many of you didn't understand why this product was developed.
It was a protective paint meant to be used for tables, for, let's say, desks, for accessories. But maybe not on kitchens that would then be washed or perhaps scrubbed. Why am I telling you this? Because the flocking, the velvety feel, which was given by the soft touch effect, would have deteriorated over the years. So I decided to seize the opportunity, given the mistakes I noticed after some issues came up, so I decided to completely remove the product from the market and redo it. Now you have a protective paint in front of you that is equal to the other two, so with the satin and the glossy, but it's 100% matte and doesn't create any effect. So there's no velvet, nothing. Can you dry it, like the others? Yes. Can you apply it like the others?
Yes. Is it easy to apply? Very. Can we use this product with all brushes?
Yes, but as always, remember one thing. There are protective finishes that really highlight your application. When you say to me, Elisa, I can't apply this protective finish properly because I end up with streaks, what am I doing wrong? You're mistaken in thinking that it's the protective finish that leaves streaks. But the protective finish, if it's satin or glossy, highlights everything you've done before. So if you've made ugly brush strokes, if you've left grooves, if you've done a poor job with the roller, the protective finish, when it's satin or glossy, highlights everything. Being matte, it does it a bit less, but remember before applying the matte protective finish you must always have a perfect surface. And how do you do that? By using the smooth sponge for surfaces that you can always find at Magic Paint retailers on the Elisa Home website. I say that in every order there should always be a sponge to smooth surfaces, because that's what makes your restyling perfect before applying the wax or the protective finish.
You gently go over the surface, smoothing it out, and remove the dust with a cloth.
Then you're ready to apply the protection, whether it's oil, wax, or protective paint. This step must always be done. This way, you avoid the issue of the protective finish leaving brush marks. You see what I mean? It's not the protective finish, it's the application of the color underneath. Now, I'm going to seize the opportunity to show you what this protective paint is like.
This protective finish isn't visible. It's completely transparent.
Can you see this table now? Right, after the protective paint, once it's dried, it'll look the same. So, why am I showing it to you on raw wood? Because if you like it on raw wood, you'll like it on any color, because many of you, those who choose this type of protection, like the completely matte effect, without marks. A floating matte wall, for example. Obviously, if you go on to apply the matte protective paint, you expect not to see the marks on the glossy or satin protective paint, and it's right. The preparation of the surface must always be done properly. I won't apply this protective finish on the table with a thin brush. It could be the protective brush or the Magico brush, which we often use for this type of application. On a surface like a raw wooden table that absorbs a lot, I need to apply it with a brush that has a bit more reservoir.
And it's not the brush that leaves the streaks. No, it's how you apply it. If you go over it too many times, if you drag it too much.
I could also apply it with the new roller, the one with the medium nap. For example, it would turn out really well, but even there, if the protective finish dries quickly, you shouldn't go over it too many times. You need to make sure the application is smooth and even. So now I add a little drop of water into my matte protective paint, just a bit.
I add the water, of course, by reading the label, mind you, but also based on the temperature, the season, and where I am.
If I'm in Piedmont right now, I can't exactly have the same temperature you have in Sardinia at the moment. So it's crucial to also consider the humidity in the air, whether it's nice weather, bad weather, raining, Christmas, or Easter, it always changes. So, depending on how dry the air is, you need to add more or less water. I'm now taking my Elizabeth big brush, because it's a bit larger, it has a bigger reservoir, and I can use even more protective paint at the very same time. I load it and it loads very easily like this, simply filling the reservoir inside by doing this movement.
I gently unload it.
You see the reservoir inside is full.
I start from the center and spread out to the right and left.
Make sure you don't leave any build-ups, because if you do, you'll definitely see it veiled. So an important thing to remember is that raw wood absorbs a bit more, so I need to spread it very well, really thoroughly, and smooth it out right away so it doesn't leave any marks at all. You see here, for example, there's a patch. This patch isn't good. It needs to be nice and even all over.
So I spread it out and bring the protective paint to where it isn't yet.
I smooth it. I smooth the surface so it becomes nice and even. I'm going to touch up the areas where I've applied too little and it's probably already dried. I smooth very well. Always remember that it's important to do this final step so that it's really nice and even everywhere, so there aren't any brush strokes. Also backwards, there shouldn't be any. I load it and move it if I apply too much. I move it, carefully smooth it out, and make everything nice and even. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We've decided to keep this table very low profile. Why low profile? Because it's already dark. It's already characterized by this with color that's really, let's say, almost burnt by time. And so, in my opinion, the perfect color is Nuit Parisienne. We haven't shown it to you for a while, but it's one of the most beautiful magic paint colors. Not because I'm biased, but because it's a truly unique black. If you use it pure, it's darker. But if you use it diluted, the finish brings out a grain that leans slightly towards brown, towards green. It's a truly chameleon-like black. Amazing. Now we apply a nice coat of Nuit Parisienne all over the underlying structure, and if we spread it well, one coat might be enough.
A light sanding on the entire underlying structure to bring out a bit of the wood.
I always go over it with the cloth first, so as to avoid flying dust.
And here it is. The effect is much more delicate.
Even right onto the leg, you can control it better.
It come out only where you want it.
Very delicate. Very original and vintage. Now I protect this black part with the matte protective paint. I use the Elizabeth brush in a smaller version. And I apply it everywhere. Be careful about one thing. Don't worry if when you sand the black part, this comes through, that's normal. We're just stressing the pigments and the chalk within the paint. Once we go on to protect it, and it dries, of course, the color will change completely and become even. This is something that normally happens with very dark tones, with black tones, with dark blue tones, with grey tones. It's quite normal. When we apply the protective layer, and we do it vertically and not horizontally, it's crucial to be extremely careful to apply very little and to cautiously remove any potential drips that might possibly form, because drips are quite unappealing and unsightly.
This restyling is also finished. What can we say about this table?
In my opinion, it has taken on an elegant and modern look, but it also fits well in slightly more classic settings. We've managed to create something that looks nice everywhere.
You were clever and visionary, because I wouldn't have thought that a transferred image on this would look so good. It was Emma who told me that something very stylized, very delicate, could pay tribute to this beautiful wood. And she was right, because indeed, now that I see it like this, when we keep it open because we need it, we feel its beauty. But if I have to close it, it definitely doesn't lose it. In fact, it always stays here and it's visible, but it certainly doesn't weigh everything down. And this central wood part is the most beautiful and truly striking part, because this wood grain, truly beautiful, hasn't been covered. So I'm very happy, especially with the colour underneath, because it needed to be Nuit Parisienne, no other colour. And I'd like to tell you something, sometimes less is more. So let's not try to do a restyling by piling on 50 techniques, studying who knows what, because it's not necessary.
When something's beautiful, it's beautiful, right? Just remember that Magic Paint products aren't bought on Amazon, but on the only Italian site that sells Magic Paint, which is called elisahome.com, or go to our wonderful retailers that you can find on the magicpaint.it website, and they are sorted by region. So, find yours. Bye.